joining in the third episode of vRealize Operations Manager Webinar Series 2017. I know we are late in the game this year. We should be on the 7th episode and not the 3rd because it's the month of July. But trust me, we'll catch up because we have a lot to talk about in the upcoming episodes and this one as well. We purposefully kept this one for 1.5 hours. And we try to fit everything in 1.5 hours. But we will definitely take it forward with some of the future episodes to drill down or deep into each or some of the interesting topics which have come up with vRealize Operations 6.6. So today we'll be talking about the new version which was released last month, and it has got enough, I think, runtime and a lot of downloads might have been done by customers as well as engineers who work on this product. So I just wanted to make sure that we can give you a lowdown on what exactly was given or introduced with 6.6, all the new features, and how they translate into customer use cases, which will actually help you utilize vRealize Operations Manager to deliver operations in a new way, which will basically take care of some of the basic day-to-day use cases which appear while running business operations or IT operations. And that's where this session comes about. Quickly, a couple of housekeeping items. Q&A, as usual, we'll be doing at the end of the session. If you have any questions coming up, make sure that you put them on the chat window, and we'll be able to answer them via chat. I have Simon with me helping me with that, and we'll kind of run through some of the interesting questions as well during the session. So use the chat window for your questions. The session is recorded, so in case you want to pass this recording on later, or if you want the deck for this session, I will share the link by the end of the session where you can get all the recordings for not just this episode, but the other 14, 15 episodes which we have done so far. As soon as you enter the WebEx and your phone call, you are muted by default. And in case you need to talk, then you can use the chat window. Or if you want, you can unmute yourself using *6 as well. Your feedback is critical because that helps us improve these webinar series. So please let us know using that survey link in terms of what would you like to see, and in future sessions, or how did this session go, and any of your expectations around this webinar, and we'd be happy to incorporate that. And your feedback really matters, so please use that survey link to give your feedback on these sessions. Simon, I would appreciate if you could put that chat link or survey link on the chat window so that everyone has it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Awesome. With that, let's quickly introduce the speakers. I'll start with Simon. Simon, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, yes. So as you can see, my name is Simon Eady. I work as a senior consultant for a consultancy called Extrovert. We're based in the UK, and we do a lot of work in and around EMEA. One of my specialties in the VMware stack is vROps. I've been doing that for many years now. Yeah, that's me. Also blog at a website called definite.co.uk.
All right, thank you, Simon. Simon has been my partner in crime for this webinar series. He's the one who came up with this idea, and it's been 1.5 years. And hopefully this time during VMware, we'll meet each other for the first time live. So I'm looking forward to that, Simon.
Oh, that's
all right.
Really good.
All right, my name is Sunny, and I work for VMware. I work within the Cloud Management Business Unit as a senior member of technical staff. It basically translates into engineer. I'm associated with vROps and vRealize, an operations management product portfolio within VMware, and primarily working on vROps nowadays. Prior to being this, I was in the field, so I was closely working with customers trying to understand their challenges around operations. And with this role, I'm trying to make sure that we can answer those challenges, if not all, but most of them, with out-of-the-box configurations and content and features within the product, which is vROps or Log Insight for that matter. So today we'll talk about vRealize Operations 6.6, and before I jump into the next slide, I do want to call out that I was a part of this release in terms of being a part of engineering who's producing out this release, so I might be a little biased. So I would ask Simon to keep me honest whenever he thinks that we need to do better. I was more of a critique 6 months back when I was outside the product team, but since I'm a part of it, if it sounds markety, Simon, please let me know. I want to keep it highly technical.
No problem.
Awesome. Okay. So we all know that operations management is not simple, and anybody who's managing a set of ESX servers or virtual machines or data stores or any of these silos, or even a super admin who's managing a complete SDDC environment, there are multiple challenges. There are challenges around visibility into various areas. There are challenges that you get around event management, capacity management, and so on and so forth. So the basic theme behind vROps 6.6 was to make sure that we understand those challenges and incorporate them into the product, not the challenges, but the solution to those challenges. And that's what you would see as the underlying theme of vROps 6.6. And it's not just me, but there's a whole team behind it, and I should say that it has been a complete overhaul in terms of what you've seen in the previous releases versus what you see in 6.6. As a user of 6.6, because I also use the product day in, day out, I feel much more comfortable in terms of what has come out, and probably with this session we'll try to share that goodness with you. So let's look at the slideware before we jump into the demo. So in the slideware we'll probably run through some of these features and try to understand what's going on, and then we will, as usual, jump into a demo where we can run through a live environment and see how exactly the product comes out and spits out the details around how an environment is running and what all various different answers you can get pertaining to a particular problem which you might face on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing first is around simplification, which was done by VMware on this product, which was around making sure that all the menu options that you have and the various options that you have are simplified, and simplified in a way that they not only reduce the number of clicks for a user, but also makes the experience seamless with the introduction of HTML5 UI. HTML5 is the standard across all VMware products, and with this release of vROps 6.6, that has been introduced with this release as well. And so basically now the look and feel and the way the menu options and different icons and clicks and buttons work within the product are in sync with all of the other products. So the basic theme is you learn one and you're able to operate any of these products for solving your different use cases which you buy these products for. That's new. And the other thing is the Getting Started page, which basically revolves around dashboards. Now, we've seen in the past as well, in the previous episodes, and as a user of product as well, you would understand that custom dashboards or dashboards is one of the most powerful features of vRealize Operations Manager. And this time around, a lot of use cases which are solved in the field using dashboards are actually incorporated within the product out of the box. And then there is a go-to place from where you can get a list of all those use cases and then navigate to solving those use cases by using a specific dashboard. And that's what you would see in the Getting Started page, which you have a screenshot of on the slide as well. And there are really accelerated remediations which have been changed because we've kind of divided the product or the way it works for different users. And some of those users categories are around operations, the people who manage capacity, the people who manage security, compliance, and config, etc. So you would see a sense of role-based content, which basically, in my opinion, makes sense, because if I am an administrator responsible for troubleshooting, I might not want to go through 20 different screens to get to the point where I want to, and hence it's it's important that I'm pointed out to what is made for me, and that's what you would see in 6.6. And then the whole set about integrations, integrations with VMware products, which revolve around operations, which revolve around capacity management and cost. And when I say operations, it's basically a part of, or troubleshooting for that matter, is part of two things. It's unstructured and structured data. The unstructured data comes with a log insight, which is taking care of logs, and the structured data, which is metrics, which is taken care of by vROps. So with this release, you will see a lot of that has been simplified and made out of the box to ensure that when you are trying to solve a problem, you immediately get answers to that as soon as you have the products up and running, monitoring your environments, rather than you have to, go ahead and integrate them in the back end and build a big system, which then starts helping you. So that has been simplified out of the box as well. So Simon, I just wanted to ask you if you've been able to get your hands dirty with some of this stuff yourself in your lab or with customers.
Yeah, I mean, some of the customers that I've spoken to, it's only been, less than a month since it came out. All of them were very impressed with the HTML5 changes. I won't spend ages talking about that too much, but everything was positive on that, the speed and the way it responds. Obviously, certain things have changed locations, but so if you were used to using vROps before HTML5 arrived or before 6.6, then you have to kind of rewire your brain as to where some of the items now live. But the logic behind that seems to make a lot of sense. It's clear, I mean, being completely impartial, it's clear a lot of thought's gone into where items now live in the menus and the layout of everything. So all of the feedback I've had has been nothing but positive.
Awesome, awesome. That sounds good. All right, so that's one part of what's new. I think there's another part of what has changed is around making sure that you can proactively avoid performance issues and efficiently use your capacity which you have in your environment. And that is a four-pronged approach in this case, not just two-pronged. So with 6.6, you would see a new feature being introduced, which is a fully automated workload balancing. Now, there are multiple use cases or multiple technologies which are used to build this feature, and these technologies are time proven, and the way they work in tandem with each other is very powerful. So just to give you a context, if you are a vSphere customer, and everybody on the call is, that's why they're here, but if you are a vSphere customer, you understand the importance of DRS. You understand how DRS can move virtual machines within a cluster between hosts to ensure that your virtual machines are not impacted by any contention, and they get the resources they require at every given point of time. Now, that is the feature of DRS. Now, with 6.5, which was the last release of vROps, and 6.6, we basically have a feature which can tell DRS that instead of waiting for that contention to happen, which is actually already a problem, you can predictively move a virtual machine to a different host within a cluster by using the recommendations from vROps, which are given through the predictive analysis engine, and that feature is called PDRS, which is predictive DRS. So now you not only use DRS to move things around, but you can do it in a more predictive and predictive fashion, which basically helps you to avoid problems, right? Or proactive fashion, as some people like to call it. Now that's a problem solving of virtual machines within a cluster. What if your cluster is full? What if your cluster or any of your hosts in the cluster doesn't have enough capacity to move a VM which is struggling, right, or which might struggle? Now, in that case, with 6.6, we've introduced something called Workload Balance, and Workload Balance actually can move VMs across clusters to ensure that if you have any other given cluster in your data center which has enough resources available to cater to a contention of a virtual machine or a demand of a virtual machine, then it will allow you to move the VMs manually or automatically across these clusters. Now, that is workload balance, and it's not only just moving the VM, because we all understand that a VM consists of CPU, memory, and disk, and hence this movement is not just a vMotion, but it's also a storage vMotion. And that's why it says it's across clusters, it's across data stores. And the beauty is that you can do it all through a single UI within vROps, which is a workload balance page. And that page allows you to measure if your data centers are balanced, and also allows you to go ahead and execute rebalance, as you can see with some of the screenshots on this page. And we will kind of touch upon that today, but we will have a deep dive session because to understand how VMs move across clusters and what kind of impact they might have while they're moving, I think it deserves a deep dive in that session. So we'll do that as we progress with telling more about vROps 6.6 and workload balance. So now you have an overall use case of making sure that your VMs are never facing issues because they're always getting moved around if they want to look up for a better place or a better home for themselves. So that's the day 2 operations case. There's also an introduction of day 1 operations case, or day 0, I should say, where on day 0, when you're using tools such as vRealize automation, if you've used VRA, you would know that there is a construct of reservation within the product. Now that reservation decides that where will your VMs get parked at the end of the day. So let's say you create a reservation and you add 5 clusters to it. And then you set a priority within those clusters, priority 1 to cluster 1, priority 5 to cluster 5. Now, VRA, when you create a new VM using the automation framework or the service catalog, it will go ahead and place that VM in one of those clusters within that reservation. But the challenge is that VRA does not have enough information about those clusters and their workload patterns. And hence, sometimes that decision of placing a virtual machine in a given cluster might not be the most appropriate decision which you would take based on the resource demand. And hence, with 6.6, what we do is we do an out-of-the-box integration between vROps and VRA, and as soon as a VM is about to place a virtual machine within VRA, it asks the question to vROps, and using the workload placement engine, vROps suggests the best cluster to place that VM within that particular reservation. Now that's a powerful story because on day 0, you would know what would be the best place to place that particular virtual machine so that this new VM does not impact other existing VMs and also is not impacted by resource contention itself. So that's also a part of 6.6, which is a pretty powerful feature for somebody who's using VRA in their environments. All right. Simon, did you get a chance to play with workload balance so far?
Not properly. One of the things that I'll be doing some tests with in August will be actually what you've just been talking about, and that's the placement through VRA, but also the workload balance across multi-clusters. And my home lab is going to be sweating a little bit, but I haven't had the chance to look at it in a full manner yet.
Okay, awesome. Hopefully, once you have those learnings, we will do a session within the webinar series to share those with customers so that they can actually get a head start when they're trying to use these features.
Yeah, I mean, it might be good. I'm thinking we can show demonstrations of how that works.
Sure.
You know, where VRA is doing that, you can see, you know, we'll generate load in one of the clusters out of the 2 perhaps, and then watch the decision go through.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let us jump into the next slide quickly to see what else we have. Now, this is, I think, the third pillar of vROps 6.6, which is around making sure that we help you operationalize virtual SAN or vSAN as soon as you have that, or even before you plan to install vSAN in your environments. Now, I would not kind of go deep into vSAN, but if you are vSAN or if you have vSAN in your environments for people on the call or people who will listen into this webinar later on, then with vROps 6.6, vSAN, as some of the vSAN folks say, is treated as a first-class object. For me, data is always a first-class object because, or storage is always a first-class object because it stores your data. And I think data is the most important thing in the data center, and that's why it's called the data center, I believe. And for organizations to move to a hyper-converged infrastructure or storage such as vSAN, it is important for them to have visibility into performance, capacity, logs, configuration, and health, all the 5 towers of operations. And they should understand each and everything behind how their storage is performing. Are there any upcoming problems they can see, or is there any capacity issue, etc. And to have that visibility, what we did with 6.6 is we kind of made sure that vSAN is an out-of-the-box integration with vROps, and at the same time, there is integration to the level that you can start with your vSAN cluster and go to the level of a disk or a spindle and get all these 5 things around performance, capacity, loss, configuration, and health for each of the object, which is between these 2 objects. So basically from top to bottom or bottom to top, everything is covered. And probably we'll run through some of those, some of that content to show you what's available. That's about vSAN. And then there are other integrations, and this is, I think, the next part of it, where we've done integrations around cost, as I was talking about, and software-defined data center health and configuration overview. So that's, again, a part of the product itself. And if you have vRBC running in your environments, then you'll be able to basically have vRBC as a page within vROps. So you don't actually go ahead and log out and log in into a different product itself, but you can actually just switch between costing versus operations versus metrics versus logs, and that can be done within the vROps UI. So you can use all these 3 products transparently within the same UI itself. And we also have done the VIDM integration, which you don't see on this page, but that integration allows you to actually do a single sign-on between these 3 products without any issues. So that's another thing which is introduced with 6.6, and the use cases which it covers is around costing, cost saves due to reclamation, any procurement planning which you want to do around new hardware, etc. So all those use cases of vRBC are now mostly a part of vROps itself. And then some expanded support around software-defined data center. So I've written on my blog about the SDDC management pack, the 1.0 and the 2.0 version. 2.0 is where we kind of support all those product icons which you see on the screen right now: vCenter, vSAN, NSX, vRBC, vRealize, and vROps. We are expanding that further, and every SDDC product would be a part of that SDDC management pack, so that once you are running a stack of SDDC applications which are running your virtual data centers, then you have full visibility into the health and configuration of each of these applications. And that's again available within vROps. So your monitoring system can not only monitor your business side of things, virtual machines which are supporting the business, but also the virtual machines which are running your IT infrastructure. So that's, again, a new feature with 6.6, or more enhanced with 6.6. All right, so that's about highlights of what you saw. But I wanted to actually dig down more into content, because I understand that at the end of the day, the back-end changes to the product or the way it looks and feels is all about usage and how you will use the product. And I believe you will use the product more if you are able to answer some of your basic questions which you face or which you deal with in day-to-day operations. And that's where we've kind of revamped the content within the product, be it dashboards or alerts, which have the highest touch point to an operations guy. We've changed them over to make sure that they meet your basic needs, or let's say 80% of your basic needs out of the box. And then you can always go ahead and customize further if you are using vROps Advanced or Enterprise to kind of add on top of what you already get out of the box. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And what we basically came up with is an anchor to this content. So if you look at what I was talking about is the getting started page, is from where you can actually get into various role-based or persona-based content which can help you solve different use cases. And the good news is that you don't have to figure out those use cases. Those use cases are well defined on the getting started page itself, which tells you who you are and what kind of information you're looking at, and how do you actually get details about that particular use case or that particular problem. So if you see on a high level, they have been divided into 5 different categories: operations, capacity and utilization, performance troubleshooting, workload balance, and configuration and compliance. And if you see these categories, they kind of link to specific use cases. So on the screenshot, we have selected operations, and you have specific use cases around operations, and then the dashboards which help answer those use cases or those problems. And that's the theme which you will see across all the dashboards which are available through the Getting Started page. Before we proceed, I would probably check if we have any questions, and then we can actually jump into each of these categories and go through them and see how they look like in a live demo.
We haven't had any questions through on the chat so far, so I think we can
check my chat as well. I think Jennifer has a question, and that's just sent to me directly, so I think that's why you don't see it, Simon. The question is, the Getting Started page assumes you are using the vSphere solution pack. If you use a different solution pack like vCloud Air, can the Getting Started page be modified? I knew this was coming. The answer is yes, you're right. The Getting Started page pretty much assumes the basic use cases which we give out of the box to the customer, and these use cases are taking care of certain certain vSphere use cases, because we don't know if every customer would use vCloud Air, and hence we do not have those use cases listed down over here. Today, there is no out-of-the-box configuration or easy way to, let's say, add your own use cases or add your own dashboards to this list, but I completely agree that that could be one of a good feature request where you can actually create your own Getting Started and pin down or favorite your own dashboards. And so that's completely in the mind. In the first iteration, we wanted to make sure that we put this out, and it seems from the feedback that I'll let, if people are asking questions, I believe it's kind of good in terms of what they see. As an engineer, I can tell you that this is an HTML page, right? And if you have worked on an advanced edition of vROps, and as a PSO, we used to do a lot of customizations within the product, and you can actually write your own HTML page into a dashboard, which can point to specific dashboards. So you can actually write your own Getting Started page, to be honest. It's not that hard from a customization standpoint. But yes, we do believe that in the upcoming releases, we will give easy options to customers to go ahead and tag their favorite dashboards in a similar fashion what you see on the Getting Started page. And I'll kind of move to Simon and ask him that if he has been able to use this page or have any feedback around how the out-of-the-box content is being accessed now with 6.6.
Yeah, so when these things came along, I mean, again, I've not seen too many customers since 6.6 was released, but the initial reaction was a lot of happiness, mostly because a lot of the guys who use vROps wouldn't call themselves vROps experts, and sometimes members of their team who aren't the designated vROps guy, perhaps, when they want to access this and quickly ascertain what's going on in the environment if the other guy is busy, these welcome dashboards and the getting started stuff it has made it so much easier for them. They're not clicking across tabs trying to find the dashboard they want or are not quite sure where to go. It's very cleanly laid out. So again, it's just all positive. I've not seen anyone come back with any particular critique on it. It's all good stuff, mate.
All right, awesome. So with that, I hope, Jennifer, I answered your question, but let me know if you have a follow-up. And with that, I think let's jump into each of these categories and see how exactly or what exactly are the problems they're trying to solve. Though they're pretty simple and laid out, but I would still kind of give you a highlight of what those use cases, what were the use cases and personas we thought about when we created these dashboards, so that when you look at them, you understand what are the answers, or what are the things which, or what are the various different answers you can get when you have these dashboards in action in your environments. So the first category, as you can see, is operations. I do have a slide for it. Okay, cool. So the personas primarily which were targeted for this category was around the NOC team and the executives. Some of those dashboards which you would see in this category, you would see that they're not, you don't even require to click them. So that's where the NOC use case comes in, where you put it on a big monitor and you're able to get and understand what's going on in your environments through those dashboards. And then there are executives dashboard where they want to take quick decisions with simple data and with a simple glance or a quick glance on data with simple data. They are going into a meeting, they want to understand what's the overall capacity or how does it look like, and they want to quickly get a capacity overview. Similarly, they want to understand how are events triggering in the environments and which are the environments which are having, problems with a lot of alerts going on and stuff like that. That's where they get operations overview and so on and so forth. So the key questions which can be answered are over here, but yeah, the basic idea is that two personas, the NOC team and the executives, and they get simple or answers to those simple basic use cases which are required in every environment. So, and that's where these dashboards which you see out of the box are trying to meet, let's say, all or 80% of the out-of-the-box use cases which customers have. And then on top of that, they can customize it further to meet specific problems they're trying to solve within their environments. So that's about operations category. The second category around this area is called capacity and utilization dashboards. As the name suggests, it's all around how exactly or what is your demand versus what's your supply, and what is the difference, so that you can go ahead and take decisions around procurement, you can take decisions around reclamation, and so on and so forth. So the basic personas which they help are cloud admins, infrastructure and operations admins, and specifically the capacity and procurement teams who are responsible for making sure that they have enough runway before they go ahead and buy or create some new roads or buy some new infrastructure. So that's where these dashboards, these are the categories these dashboards help with. And then the basic answers are simple as what a day-to-day question is asked. If I step into any customer, they want to know when do they want to, or how they can retain resources, and how they can do it effectively, CPU, memory, disk, etc. And then they want to actually make sure that they keep a track on the VMs which are highly, highly notorious in terms of demand. So they're always busy, they're always running something, and they might act as a noisy neighbor in the environment. So they want to know about the top talkers or the heavy hitters, which is kind of covered in this category. They want to know that if there are hotspots in the data center, if there are data stores, or if there are hosts or if there are clusters which are highly utilized then. And if they are heavily utilized, then and what are the reasons behind that? And is this a row problem, which might be, let's say, a VM running a process, which is kind of taking 100% of resources all the time? Or is there antivirus scan which runs at a time of a day when it should not run, let's say at 9 a.m., and stuff like that, right? So you can actually bubble up a lot of that into these dashboards, which are available under this particular section around capacity and utilization. And we will have a look at some of them when we jump into the demo. The next section is around performance troubleshooting. I think this is one of the major reasons why you buy vROps or a product like vROps, because it helps you kind of gather millions and millions of data points together and kind of highlight the areas which are in trouble or anomalies which can actually point to problems within your environment. And that's what performance troubleshooting dashboards help you with. The basic personas are the virtual infrastructure admin, infra and ops admin, and to some level architects, because I know for a fact that operations has different levels. And at each level, you kind of look at more matured information or more deep down information in terms of how you can troubleshoot. And the infra and the architects is where they can actually understand if there are issues within the environment, and they can do deep level log analysis or understand various patterns of metrics through these particular dashboards. And they help you at each level. So when I say each level, you can look at virtual machines, you can look at clusters, hosts, data stores, or for their metrics and any problems that they have. And you can also jump into the category of logs, which might help you with further troubleshooting using Log Insight, which is a part of the same UI. So this is the performance troubleshooting category, which is available out of the box, and we'll have a look at some of those as well. I spoke about workload balance, so you can take care of DRS, and you can also take care of virtual machines across clusters with workload balance, and you can do it with very, very simple policies which are easy to configure and easy to execute from the same UI. And once you've executed them once, twice, thrice, and you have enough confidence in terms of automation, is then you can fully automate them using something called scheduled tasks or automation. So that's a part of the workload balance dashboard of the page, and we will look at that as well today. And then comes the last part, or the last persona, which we are catering to, which is around configuration and compliance. This is where we kind of touch upon issues which are very important to VI admins and architects, because an architect basically architects a solution, creates a design, and makes sure that each of your clusters, your hosts, your VMs are configured in a specific way. Because when you architect an environment, you architect it for performance, you architect it for availability, and so on and so forth. But if any of these configurations are not aligned to the design or are facing a drift, then there should be a way for you to go ahead and highlight that. And that's what we do in the configuration and compliance dashboards. We pretty much measure your vSphere infrastructure against VMware best practices, and we kind of throw out the differences or the drifts within those best practices out to you to tell you that, these are your clusters which are not configured properly for HA, or these are your clusters which are not configured properly for, let's say, DRS. And the same goes at VM level or host levels. And this is where you can actually stop most of your problems which might happen in your environment proactively. Because we all understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most of your performance problems, availability problems in the data center, whether it's around applications, infrastructure, virtualization, SDDC, etc., they all happen because of the fact, and this is most of the times, because of the fact you had a misconfiguration, because of the fact that you drifted from your original design, and that's a challenge every environment has. And that's what this category tries to answer through giving you dashboards for various different objects and their configurations. So yeah, those are the 4 categories. So what do you think, Simon? Do you want to jump into those categories right now and have a look at those dashboards, or do you want to stick to demo at the end principle?
Let's stick to the demo at the end. I mean, one thing I wanted to say about the different categories is a lot of the customers, or at least the ones I've spoken to, they really like what they were seeing. I mean, you guys have put in there, you know, the personas thing. This is your sort of expected user base that would use each of these sets of dashboards or themes. What I've observed so far is they haven't necessarily, I mean, going back to the one that you stated, you know, is used for executives or the NOC, a lot of the customers are very happy with their existing NOC dashboards. But because you guys have put a lot of time and effort to putting these up, it's actually giving customers more ideas on how they can either use something similar or simply improve what they already have. So again, it's nothing negative. I haven't seen them necessarily use it exactly the way I think you guys are looking at it, but what it's doing is it's giving them better ideas, or even showing them functionality and options that they didn't realize were available in vROps. So it's all good.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think that's the idea behind out of the box, right? I mean, out of the box, especially in a management or a monitoring tool, is something which gives you guidance around what the tool can do. Plus, these are, let's say, templates for you, which you can use or reuse to kind of meet your specific use cases, especially if you're running advanced or enterprise editions. Because that's where you have the real power of the tool, where you can customize and do whatever you want to, or create whatever pages you want or dashboards you want, just pinpointing to the problems that you have. It's just that you don't want to really end up into a dashboard sprawl as well, because I've seen that as well, where people create a dashboard for every small problem. I think the art is that you're able to kind of consolidate or answer multiple things, if you could, and in a simpler way, so that if somebody's looking at it, he can get the answer within 5 seconds, rather than figuring out what you're trying to do with that page. So yeah, that's all great feedback. And I think once we jump into the demo, I can show you multiple different ways of how I kind of go ahead and arrange things so that it becomes easier for me to consume when I want to go ahead and use that same data. All right, so I'll stick to the principle of demo at the end. Let me just quickly go through my remaining slides, and then we can jump into the demo. So some of the things which you would see around alerts, so a couple of things. One is we've revamped the alerts, so you will see new alerts. You will see a bunch of alerts which are now disabled or which have been modified because we've been looking at data sets at customers and trying to understand that what makes most sense to them out of the box, and we've been kind of working on re-architecting some of these alerts to ensure that we are able to give you suggestions which or alert you on things which are actionable as soon as you get that alert. And they're not just informational, because a lot of times the informational alerts can mean nothing to somebody, and they might just kind of go away from alerts. And there's an old saying, when I come in the morning, I see 5,000 alerts, I action for the first day, and the next day I stop looking at it at all. So we want to avoid that problem, but there is always a basic problem which comes with alerts, right? Out of the box, we try to give you as much as possible to cover the most spectrum of problems that you might see in a data center. There will always be a corner case where you would not have a problem or concern about a particular area, and that's where you have the opportunity to disable these alerts. We cannot really turn off these alerts out of the box because we want to cover all these areas. But with 6.6, we've made it very simple for you to go ahead and, disable what you don't like, and at the same time, kind of do an analysis of what kind of alerts are triggering and whether they make sense to you or not. And or the other way around to look at it is, If there are too many alerts triggering on the storage area or within storage latency, then I know there's something going on or brewing up which I should start looking at, and that's what is also available with 6.6. So some of these areas which allow you to do the alert grouping or alert analysis is with the enhancements, where you can actually group the alerts by time, by criticality, by the definition, or by object type. And at the same time, you can group them by the function of time as well. So how many alerts last week, last month, and so on and so forth. You also have the opportunity to alert them by criticality. And this is some analysis which I've seen a lot done at customers to understand how many critical problems, how many immediate and warnings, because some of these are tied to your SLAs, from especially operations SLAs. And then there are alerts which you can group by object type, and that's also available. So you can basically look at the alerting data at different levels, and then based on each of these levels, you can go ahead and take an action. Now, the action might be to fix a problem, or in some cases, the action might be that you want to disable an alert, and you can actually do that from this screen itself. Let me just show you how. So here's an example where you have where you're grouping all the alerts by definition, and you can also do multiple things. You can group all the alerts by definition with a specific time period. So you have a double filter which you can apply, and so on and so forth. So a lot of that analysis can be done on this page from an alerts or events perspective. If you see an alert is not relevant to you, then you can actually go ahead and select that alert and click the actions button and just go ahead and disable it. And this will automatically disable the alert in a specific policy or all the policies based on what you select. So you get both the options. So that's something which is available out of the box. So I think that it's a very next logical step where you've done an analysis, and after the analysis, you've realized that these things are critical and you go and action them, and then you also find that there are alerts coming in for something specific which you're not worried about in your data center because you've taken that strategic decision to not be being worried about that. And that's where you can go ahead and disable those alerts right from this page. So that's a part of the problem. The next part which you would see is how we have broken down these alerts into providing you more information. And when I say more information, if you remember, when you see an alert, you see this page. You see the name of the alert, the description, you see the recommendations, which could be an automated recommendation or something where you can run an action, or it could be just a string suggestion, which you see on this page. And then what we've added is need more information. So just in case the first part of recommendations do not help you and you wanted to go ahead and do more analysis around these alerts, then you have three more options. First one is to view additional metrics. That is from where you can jump into what I call as the God mode of the product, where you can go into all metrics and look at any different set of metrics to dive deeper or troubleshoot further for that particular problem or diagnose further in your troubleshooting process. The second thing is you can get in-context logs if you are using Log Insight for that particular object, be it a virtual machine, data store, ESX server, or a cluster, etc. And you can click on View Logs, and it will actually take you to the logs of that particular object within vROps, and you can go ahead and look at that data. And then the last part is View Events. And this is where we have created an event workbench where within vROps, a lot of events from vCenter are pulled in, and these events can actually go ahead and tell you if there was a snapshot taken on a VM or if it was vMotion and so on and so forth, so that you have some context around the history of that VM and the actions which were taken with that VM around the problem area. And that helps you to kind of troubleshoot and go deeper or kind of build your analogy around what could be the problem in the environment. and that's what you would see over here within the view events, and we probably have a look at that as we look into the live environment. Yes, so we've heard about alert fatigue, and we've disabled the noisiest alerts, and which are non-actionable in most of the cases. So that analysis was done to ensure that we remove some of those alerts or disable some of those alerts out of the box. And these are the list of the alerts which are now disabled out of the box. As I said earlier, some alerts might be useful to them. So we want to make sure that we give you that choice of enabling or re-enabling those alerts back in case you think they are critical for your use cases or your environments. But as I said, there was a very small percentage of customers who were using it. In fact, we couldn't find any, and that's why we said that we'll go ahead and disable these workloads or these alerts so that we can reduce the noise from a perspective of something which is non-actionable. And then we actually went ahead and did a lot of work around looking at each and every alerts which are critical, and these are some of the critical alerts which we have changed with or modified with vROps 6.6. And I will not go into the detail of each of these alerts, but the idea behind that modification was to ensure that you have an action once you have any of these alerts coming in, and that action can actually help either solve a problem which is happening in an environment, or proactively avoid a problem which might happen in your environment because these alerts are symptoms of that particular issue which is growing up in the near future. That's something which takes care of a lot of alerts. So in case you install vROps new, or if you have had vROps, you go to 6.6, you might want to consider some of these out-of-the-box alerts. By default, they will give you a lot more information and a lot more actionable information around your data centers or your infrastructure that you're monitoring with vROps. That's about the new and modified alerts. In the interest of time, I would not spend much over here because I want to make sure I can spend around 20, 25, 30 minutes for the demo. But yeah, you have metrics and logs in the same context within vROps. So you can go from a particular object, looking at its metric, and if you want more information around the same timeline for a log or logs, then you can actually go ahead and switch to the logs tab within the object or within vROps, and you'll be able to get log and events associated to that particular object. Some of the discussions around integration. So this is where some of large organizations do want to make sure that they can collaborate around some of these alerts which are triggering with vROps, and this collaboration can happen through various different channels. So you can use the webhook shims which are available for you to integrate with Slack, ServiceNow, PagerDuty, and VRO. And when you say VRO, it basically means that you can actually take or remediate through VRO workflows into various different engines. So, and I have the link from Stephen Flanders' blog over here. I know it should be a web link, but don't worry, you will get the copy of this deck through my blog. So you should be able to click on that link and get some more details. Otherwise, Google is your friend, and you should be able to get that if you're looking for that data right now. So that can give you more information on how you can connect your vROps system with some of your third-party systems, which might be a ServiceNow or a PagerDuty or Slack, and generate or populate some of those alerts and update them as and when an issue occurs in your data center. That's something which is available out of the box now. All right. Again, we spoke about FDC Stack earlier. So that is available as a single pane of glass for you to monitor all your SDDC components, vCenter, vSAN, vSphere, NSX, NSX Manager, some of the things which are here, such as Log Insight, VRBC, VRA, VRO, are something which you will also monitor using the SDDC management pack. And all that basically ties down into vRealize Operations Manager UI, and it's all supported with 6.6 release. You were right. That was, so trust me, I don't like slideware. So I wanted to quickly come to this slide because this is my favorite, where I could actually show you some of these things in action. But I'll take a pause before I log into my lab and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, we've got one from Sebastian. He's asking, have the default CPU and memory stress thresholds changed in 6.6?
That's a good question. So the answer to that, Sebastian, is not. We have not changed anything, or anything. Mostly, we've not touched policies with this release, so we've not changed anything in terms of default CPU and memory stress. So it's status quo as it was in 6.5. So yeah, and I know why you're asking that, because stress is, or this calculation basically defines how you calculate capacity at the end of the day, or undersized or oversized VMs, and that's very critical. And but as I said, it's very hard to determine what that setting would be in different environments, because different customers have different needs, and hence we've not touched them. But yeah, as you know, you should be able to modify those settings to meet a particular use case or a particular environment. I don't know if it's a good answer. All right. Is there any other questions you have, Simon, on the chat?
No, that's it so far, mate. You're good to go with the demo. Okay,
awesome. So as always, before we go to the demo, because I really want you to own this after I demo this to you, so that you can learn and use it in your environments. What I've done is I've put together certain use cases for these demos, so that you can tie them back to your environments, right? So these are a described form of what you saw on the Getting Started page, or the screenshot of the Getting Started page. So every dashboard which you see over here has an associated question, and that question can be answered by those particular dashboards. So when we created these dashboards, we had these questions in our mind, and that's what you would see here. So some of these are out of the box. I'm also highlighting some of the dashboards which you can get through our Operationalize Your World workshop, which we have talked about in, I believe, episode 8 last year, and that can be used by advanced edition customers, or customers who have advanced editions of vROps. Rest everything else can be used in the standard edition. So these are some questions around your virtual machines, and these are some of the questions around your infrastructure, which you bought or you've set up to demo or to serve those virtual machines. And those are the use cases. And then there are more use cases which are answered which are solved out of the box. So I will not go through these use cases because there are like 30 of them. But the idea is that you can get this slide deck. I'll tell you from where, and you can also get the recordings. And once you start using, as an operations guy, when you start using vROps 6.6 in your environment, and if you get any of these questions, then trust me, you would have an out-of-the-box answer. And that's why these questions are here. They're there to help you with your job. Okay, let me just quickly jump over and get into vROps 6.6 environment. Oops. See where it is. All right. Okay. So yeah. So if you use vROps 6.5 or 6.4 previous versions, you'll find it a little different. In fact, I find it a lot different now, and since I've been using it for a month or so now in GA and prior to that in the beta releases. I am not able to use the older version now. I don't know what about you, Simon, but 15 days with the new product, and I was struggling with the older release. So
I'm kind of in the transition stage where I've got some people with the old, some people with the new, so sort of split brain going on. But yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you're right. The more you work with both, you actually use your brain a little extra, which is not bad. All right. So coming to the 6.6 version, what you see over here is rearrangement of the menus in terms of making it simpler for you to understand what will be where when you look at the product. So you have a home page where you start with some basic views or pages which tell you what's going on, in your environment and gives you recommendations around different scopes or different environments which you might have. So you can see I have like 6 or 7 vCenters which I'm monitoring, and within that I have multiple data centers, so I can actually switch in context to a particular data center or vCenter and can understand or can get alerts pertaining to that particular environment, and I can see what's going on within that particular environment. I can also search for a particular virtual machine and look at its health, risk, or efficiency. And I can switch over to specific objects as well if I wish to. But the whole idea is that if I have an environment where I want to go ahead and start with a list of recommendations, then I can simply come over here and look at the events which have triggered and the recommendations which are available for me to go ahead and take an action. And those actions can either be automated or they could be manual actions. So in this case, you can see I have a login site virtual machine which is running on CPU usage of 100% for an extended period of time. Now, this is a new alert with vROps 6.6. Now, there are 2 recommendations over here, and I've seen this happening a lot in customer places where they have a hung process which is running in the virtual machine, and that's kind of taking up all the 100% resources and pretty much making the application or server useless. And that's where you can actually go ahead and look for those hung processes as the first suggestion. The second suggestion is if you know that there are no hung processes and you can actually go ahead and this is a virtual machine which is struggling with the amount of resources which you've given it, you might actually end up, or you can actually go ahead and give it more resources. So you can add more CPU. And when you say add more CPU, out of the box from the screen, you can actually run this action, and you can see I already have 8 vCPUs given to this virtual machine. I can go ahead and, let's say, give it 20 and go ahead and begin that action. And once I do that, we basically go ahead and, if hot add is enabled on that VM, we go ahead and add those 12 extra CPUs to take care of the issues which we might have on that particular VM. I remember this being our first episode of the vROps Webinar Series. Now, and we were trying to showcase that through custom alerts and triggering them, but now it has come to as simple as executing it from the home page itself. So that's about taking care of your issues which are happening in the environment and fixing them. And then at the same time, you can get the operations overview. So this is where I was talking about an environment or a summary of your overall environment which you're monitoring through vROps, whether it's 1 vCenter or 50 vCenters. And you can actually get and understand how many data centers you have, how many clusters, and then you can also get a trend of growth of those objects. So for example, I can get a trend of how many VMs are in a powered on state in my environment. So you can just come to this or any of these boxes, and you can, if you double click on these metrics, then you can get that trend building in your environment. So you can see my environment is pretty new. I just rebuilt it on last week. So you can see data started from here itself, and I can get a trend of what exactly or how exactly I'm doing in terms of number of VMs, the number of powered on VMs, or how quickly I'm adding data stores, and so on and so forth. So an overall summary of what's going on. And then you can actually drill down into each of these data centers individually and understand the availability factor within those data centers. So you can also understand the overall alert or event volume which you see in those environments. And how many are critical alerts, how many are immediate, and how many are warnings. So you can go ahead and do that analysis or get an overview of what's going on within that particular environment before you jump into specific environments. So you need to know which is the one which has bigger sets of issues, and then you kind of make your work your way towards smaller data centers or data centers with smaller amount of problems. And then at the end of the day, you bought all this infrastructure to serve virtual machines. So you need to make sure that all your virtual machines are being served well. And that's what we kind of bubble up over here as an operations overview. So out of all my environments, what I'm monitoring, how exactly are my VMs doing from a contention perspective. So what are the VMs which are top 15 VMs facing CPU contention, top 15 virtual machines experiencing memory contention, and top 15 virtual machines experiencing disk latency. And if you know that these numbers are pretty much in control, so for example, disk latency, you know that 12 milliseconds is not extremely bad. And if it's like 100 milliseconds, you know something is wrong. So that's where you want to make sure that you keep an eye on how exactly your VMs are being served, because that's why you bought all this infrastructure at first place. So you get an overview of your operations. Similarly, you have capacity overview, workload balance. You can jump into login site or vRBC right from the home page. The second part of the demo is where I actually wanted to go ahead and show you dashboards, which I was talking about. So you have the list of all the dashboards which can be accessed either through here, so you can open or close the dashboards which you would want to see, or you can also access the list from here when you open up the Getting Started page. So you can see that these categories are right here: capacity and utilization, configuration and compliance, operations, performance troubleshooting. And then, as I said, we have out-of-the-box integration with VRA. So you can see some of the VRA dashboards, and then you also want to make sure that your vROps itself is up and running and healthy, and all that can be analyzed through these self-explanatory dashboards which are available in the product. Then I told you about the Getting Started page. So these are the 5 categories. So as you switch over to different categories, you can get the dashboard, the use cases or the questions which these dashboards answer, and then a link to go to a specific dashboard. As I said before, operations overview was one of the categories which we were looking at, which was on the home page itself. So you can look at the use case, which is get an overview of my entire environment and understand which VMs in each data center may have performance issues. That's my overall use case. I click on Operations Overview, and it takes me to the same dashboard which we were looking at 1 minute ago. So it's as simple as that. And you can switch over to Getting Started to go back and work on your next use case. Now, it's pretty obvious that I will not go through all the dashboards, and we would not have time to learn each of these dashboards on this webinar series. So we kind of made a decision that all of these dashboards are actually available to you, not only to use, but also you have material available for you to learn. We have blogs and documentation which explains each of these dashboards and their use cases. But what we've also done is that we've created this video list or playlist which actually runs you through each of these dashboards. Oops, sorry for that music. But yeah, you will get that little bit of a music for 1 second, and then you will deep dive into each of these dashboards and will answer the problems which we are trying to answer, of course, or will basically show you how we are trying to solve problems with examples, so that you don't have to come back to this webinar to learn about them, but you can actually, when you're working on the product and you have a question, you immediately jump to that video and kind of spend 1.5 minutes on that and quickly learn in terms of how you can utilize that dashboard to solve a particular problem. So this is something which I do recommend for you to use, because this is self-learning on the job when you're trying to do something, and that's where I believe it's pretty powerful. That's for each of these dashboards which you see over here. in these lists. There, you can basically have a look at it. Some of the ones which I want to touch upon is, let's say, performance troubleshooting. So here is where you can, as I said, you can choose different categories. So you can start with a cluster, you can start with a data store, a host, a VM, or if you're running vSAN in your environment, then you can actually go ahead and monitor or troubleshoot vSAN as well. So and then the final part is where you are done with metrics and you want to actually jump into logs, is where you can troubleshoot with logs and jump into Log Insight. I do not have Log Insight integrated in this demo, but when I click this, it basically takes me into the Log Insight dashboards where I can start looking at various different data points to understand if there are problems brewing up in the environment. So let me just jump back to getting started and go to, let's say, troubleshoot cluster, for example, or troubleshoot a host, ESX server. So you know there's an ESX server which you're worried about, so you can come here and you can search for that ESX server by its name. Now, there are days when you don't know which ESX servers you're looking for, so then is when you can actually come and look at this list, and in this list, you can actually go ahead and sort with active alerts, which is pretty powerful, because this immediately tells you that you have these 5 ESX servers which have something going on because they have active alerts at this moment. And that's where you can actually select, let's say, one of those, and you can see what's going on. So you can get some basic data about that particular host in terms of version, model, whether the power management policy is, the vSphere power management is balanced, the BIOS power management is balanced or high performance, what's the processor, how many cores, what memory, whether hyperthreading is enabled or not. So some of the data which you see in vCenter in the summary page is all available over here for you to have a background about that particular object. And this is the same theme across all the other dashboards. So you learn one and you're able to utilize others. And then you get some data around how busy your host has been, and that's where you can get historical data as well around what's been the utilization pattern on the CPU demand or memory demand for that particular host. And that gives you kind of an understanding of whether it's red or green, and this changes color based on certain specific thresholds. And then I was talking about alerts, so you can see that for sure this host is a part of a vSAN cluster, and you can see that there are certain vSAN related problems which I could see in this environment. And you can see the alerts, and you can see some of the recommendations right on this page to go ahead and troubleshoot that problem. Then we also look at how your host has been working, or how hard your host has been working over the past 1 week, so that you kind of get an idea of whether this host is always busy, or is this busy today, or something new has happened, or something happens around Thursday at 5 p.m. when it gets a lot of load, and you might want to drill down and understand what's that problem. And then you can also drill down into the health of the relatives, as I call them. So you can see there's a VM over here, which is also facing some kind of an issue. So I can actually click on the alerts of that VM, and it can give me that data right on the screen. And I can see that, oh, this virtual machine is facing a high disk I/O write latency. So in certain cases, now this is a completely, oops, I'm sorry. I just kind of closed the window accidentally. But in certain cases, you would see these problems are correlated, and that's where you would immediately be able to jump from, let's say, a VM to a host or a VM to a data store, which is the actual root cause of a particular problem. That's where you can do all that correlation around different objects. So that's another set of dashboards which I was talking about, which is around performance troubleshooting. And then the last piece which I want to show you is around alerts, which I was talking about. So if you go into alerts, you can basically look at all your alerts where they're not grouped. They're just active, and that's the set of active alerts which you see in my environment. I can actually group them by time. So that tells me how many alerts were there today, how many yesterday, and how many on Tuesday. And I can further group them by criticality so that I know which are the alerts I need to work on right now, because I would first target the critical issues, and then I would target probably the immediate and warnings. And within critical, if I want, I can also get the most recent one. I can sort them if I want to, or I can also filter them by, let's say, the time they were triggered, and whether it last 30 days, last hour, and so on and so forth. So right now I have the most critical alerts triggered in the last 1 hour, and also warning and other stuff. So you can see that I can do a lot of analysis by using these two filters and take an action or understand the pattern of the problem. The other important thing which I was talking about during the presentation was finding out alerts which are kind of noisy and they do not make sense in my environment. Now, these are a bunch of alerts which you see over here, and let's say if you find an alert which you do not worry about or want to disable it, I think most of them over here are actionable because we make changes to them. But let's say power management. You don't care about changing the power management, which is, don't do that. You should worry about that. But you can select that alert itself and then go ahead and disable it. You can disable it in all policies or disable in selected policies. I don't want to disable it, but I can show you that I only have one active policy, and that's why I can see the name of that policy, and I can basically select that policy and say I'm okay, and then click on OK. And once I do that, it will disable this policy, or sorry, disable this alert within that specific policy which I have selected. If I select disable all, which is action, disable, alert, and all properties, it basically goes, all policies, it basically goes and disables it in all policies. So you can see some of these things have been extremely simplified as compared to previous versions, and that's where I think a lot of time to value and a lot of ease of troubleshooting would come into picture when you look at or upgrade to vROps 6.6. With that, I do want to leave around 5 minutes for questions, so I would stop here. I know there's a lot more to go, and we have workload balance and we have other integrations to talk about, but I would respect your time because I asked for 1.5 hours, so we will stick to this right now, and in the upcoming episodes we might want to jump over into some of these topics in details. So just a couple more slides which I have. First one is around more information. So if you want to watch all the episodes, and I put this because I have been getting this question on social media, but all the episodes of vROps webinar series, including this one, are available on that link, and there are 15 of them. So you have around 20-25 hours worth of training on vROps for free. So make sure that you utilize that or give it to your team members if they want to learn about managing or using the product. And then all the presentations in their raw format are available on that link. And the reason I give you the presentation in the raw format is because I want to actually make sure that you can use them, you can make them your own. Once you've learned something cool, you can present it to your own team members, and at the end of the day, become a ninja on vROps and kind of solve all those operational use cases which you face on a day-to-day basis. There is motivation behind going to 6.6. Of course, if my presentation was not a motivation, not enough of a motivation, then we are, or the communities, VMware Communities itself is running a program around sharing your story around vROps upgrade to 6.6, and that's the link where you can share your story. You just have to sign up to communities and mention about why you upgraded, what were the benefits, are there any learnings that you want to share with others during the upgrade process or overall with 6.6. And the good news is that you will get a one-on-one training workshop on our ops products for the top 3 winners. And I think the person is one-on-one, so it'll be delivered on site. So and for free. So that's a big prize, and you can get all your team members in for that. So I would definitely recommend you going into that link and looking at it. We will stop here for questions, but I do want to call out that that's the link for the survey. And if Simon has not put that on the chat window so far, then we'll have a fight after this call. But Simon, if you could put that on the chat window, that would be absolutely awesome for people to copy over and give their feedback on the session.
I'll do that now.
All right. Okay, so I have a question. So I have a few questions on the chat window. I'll probably take them one by one. The question was from Marlon around recording. So yes, we are recording this, and you can get the recordings. If you look at the screen, all the episodes are here on this link, and this deck itself is here. So if you want all of this data, you just screenshot my screen right now, and you should be able to get all of it. Then there are questions around, oh no, that's it. That's about it. I just see that question. So if you have any other questions, we have around 5 minutes. Feel free to ask them. And Simon, if you have any questions or comments about what we saw today, then feel free to pitch in. And and once you're done, I would probably want to say something about the future sessions as well, so that we can actually do just some of these topics, which we just got an overview of right now.
Yeah, I mean, the demonstration that you're giving in and around the alerts, one of the key use cases of vROps, aside from the many strengths of the products, is around the alerting. And dare I say it, in the past, one of its weaknesses was the ability to filter the alerts. You know, when you used to have, I think in several versions ago, you used to just have a long list of alerts, and there was no way of filtering it, and then VMware introduced group by function, which was super duper. And then now you guys in 6.6 have given all these other options, plus the ability to mute or kill or disable alerts, you know, within a couple of clicks. I know nearly every customer that I've worked with will find that extremely beneficial. So for me, that's just functionality that customers have been asking for. You guys have listened, and it's happened. So it's great.
Awesome, awesome. That's good. So I do see a question from Sherry. Is there a list or examples of out-of-the-box reports? That's a great question, Sherry. To be honest, we've not changed a lot in terms of reports with this release. We actually had a lot to do, but what you would see is if you're a new user to vROps, then all the reports are available under the dashboard sections, views, and reports. And there is actually one new report which is available and which might be pretty useful to most of vROps users or customers. It's called the Virtual Machine Inventory Summary. So let me just quickly run this on my entire environment, and you can see I'm running it. But just to give you a gist of this report, it provides you the information around your entire environment, and in a PDF or a CSV. So let's look at CSV because that's where you can play around further if you want to. Yeah, so you can see that you have a plain and simple report talking about every VM which you have. It's CPU, memory, disk, OS, number of NICs, IP address, power state, connection state, so on and so forth. All that information right in a single report. And I think this inventory is pretty much useful for most customers or most VI admins who are trying to track their VMs or share data about their VMs with application owners. So that is available out of the box. And there are other such reports which are available. But yeah, you would see continuous improvements or revamp within reports as we release further releases of vROps going forward. I do want to quickly call out webinars, or not just a webinar series, but vROps 6.6 What's New. So I've been running a 6.6 What's New on my blog. So if you're not a person who likes to listen in and wants to read further, then you can go to vexpress.blogspot.com and you can get What's New of 6.6. I'm on part 9 right now. So it's a lot of content which is out there. And every time you can go to the previous version by just going to the initial link. And you would see a lot of hidden gems, which I'm not presenting today because of the lack of time. But those hidden gems will be able to give you answers around some of interesting questions that you might have around operations. So yeah, you can bookmark that link and or subscribe so that you can get all the latest articles which I'm publishing on the blog. Okay, so enough of self-promotion. Let me just go back to the list of questions. So I hope, Sherry, that answered your question. Is there anyone else who has a question, then use the chat window. We still have a minute or so, and we'll be happy to answer that. All right. So Simon, what else? I think I actually wanted to call out that next episode, I would like to jump into workload balance, which you see here on the screen. I will not talk about it right now because I don't want to steal the thunder from the next episode. But we would probably touch upon the architectural best practices around moving virtual machines across clusters and how it can benefit you. And how you can do it pretty simply and easily with vROps 6.6, and at the same time, not only just do it once or do it manually every time, but once you have enough confidence in your decisions around manually moving virtual machines, then you can automate some of that stuff within vROps 6.6. So we'll talk about that as well, and that's what I'm thinking would be the next episode. But Simon, feel free to comment and suggest how we should go forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a really great session. I mean, one thing, I mean, this kind of almost goes back to when we first started the series about the automation piece with scaling up. You're able to use vROps to, if you want, to automate changes in the environment, which for some people is viewed perhaps risky or very new or bleeding edge, but at the end of the day, automation is coming and it's coming fast. So if you can embrace it with the tools that you have available without the need for tons and tons of scripting and things like that, it reduces that level of effort, but you've got it in a really solid product that can do it for you. But I don't want to ramble on too far because I don't want to steal Sunny's thunder, but that's going to be a really great session.
All right, mate. Now it's our thunder. So we will definitely talk about that. I'll give some of this to you to present. Okay, cool. So I think then we are on the top of the hour. I do not see any questions on the chat. If you guys want, I can open the phone lines, which is usually very noisy. But yeah, if you have questions, use the chat window. If you have any follow-ups, feel free to write to us, or the best method would be, let me just bring it up, is to use this survey link, and that will basically give us feedback, and also we'll get to know if you want to talk about or what should be the future topics which you want to hear about on the webinar series. So feel free to use that survey and please provide your feedback. With that, I'll close out. So thank you once again. Thank you, Simon, for your time, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, thanks you.
Thank you, guys.